हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। भवानी शङ्करो वन्दे श्रद्धाविश्वासरूपिणो याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धाः स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेधसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतायापतये नमः। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगताम् अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय 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 ओम नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। ओम शंकरं परमानंदं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रांतिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। हरि ओम हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Shanti mantra. Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्षो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We shall chant from the fifth mantra of the first section, third chapter. Satyena labhyah tapasa yesha atma samyak jnanena brahmacharyena nityam antah sharire jyotirmayo hi shubhrah yam pashyanti yatayakshina dosha Satyameva jayate nandrutam satyena pantha vitato devayanaha ena kramanti rishayo jhaptakamaha yatra tasatyasya paramam nidhanam brihaccha taddivyamachintya rupam sukshmacha tassukshmataram vibhati durat sudure tadihantike cha पश्यत्स्विहैव निहितं गुहायां न चक्षुषा गृह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वः ततस्तु तं पश्यति निष्कलं ध्यायमानः एषोऽनुरात्मा चेतसा वेदितव्यः यस्मिन् प्राणः पञ्चधा संविवेश प्राणैश्चित्तं सर्वमोतं प्रजानां यस्मिन् विशुद्धे विभवत्येष आत्मा. So the teacher talks about the importance of cultivating the divine virtues like Satya, tapas, brahmacharya, to make our antakarana extremely pure and to gain that knowledge in that purified buddhi. One should gain the knowledge of that Brahma with the help of the Shastras. We come to understand that Brahma. That Brahma is so subtle that it cannot be seen with the eyes. Na chakshusha grihyate, na api vacha, nor can be described with our speech, nor by any other senses, nor through karma, but it is attained through jnana prasad. That is when the buddhi becomes extremely pure. In that purified buddhi, that Brahma shines forth. When there are no impurities in the buddhi, then the Brahma gets revealed. Just as when the mirror is extremely clean, then whatever is in front of the mirror gets reflected. Even if the mirror is exposed to the space, it will reflect the space. Similarly, the purified buddhi reflects the presence of Brahma. And that Brahma is also experienced as our own self, devoid, separated from our gross body as well as subtle body. We experience the self in our deep sleep. That self is actually Brahma. So that which we have understood with our buddhi and that which we experience as our own self, we have to bring this together. The theoretical understanding of Brahma and actual experiential understanding of the self should be brought together, and that is what is called that nididhyasan, which gives the direct experience of our own self as Brahma. So, jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha, in that purified buddhi, after gaining that knowledge, and with the blessings of the knowledge, when we meditate, dhyayamanaha, then one comes to realize that Brahma, which is nishkalam, free from all parts. There are no parts in Brahma. So Atma is not different from Brahma. The world is not different from Brahma. All the jivas are not different from Brahma. Everything is Brahma alone. Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Further, the teacher says ki eshaha anuratma chetasa veditavyaha. This is very subtle. This Atma, this Shuddha Atma or Brahma is extremely subtle, smaller than an atom. It is known with the purified buddhi in this body itself. Yasmin prana panchada samvivesha, in this body which has got these five expressions of the pranas, like prana, apan, vyan, udan, saman. In this pranas is pervaded that Brahma pervades these pranas. Not only pranas, but Brahma pervades the chitta completely, just like the ghee pervades the milk, or like fire pervades the wood. In the same way, Brahma pervades the pranas, the chitta, the indriyas, the buddhi, and the sharira. But when our buddhi becomes extremely pure, we come to recognize that Brahma. See, just as the sun shines very beautifully in the sky, and the light of that sun illumines everything on this earth. But depending on the material which is illumined, they are seen differently. So a dark rock is also illumined by the sun. The trees are also illumined by the sun. The waters are also illumined by the sun. But in a rock or in a sand or in some such objects, we don't see the reflection of the sun. We don't see the image of the sun. But in a still waters, when the sun shines on those waters, we see the reflection of the sun very clearly. If we have a mirror and the sun is shining bright in the sky, then that sun is seen equally bright in the mirror also. Equally bright. Just as we can't see that sun directly with our eyes, we will not be able to even see the reflection directly. So that is the beauty, that is the greatness of the mirror. The mirror has got this strange and very mysterious nature to reflect the object which is there presented in front of it as it is. Similarly, our buddhi is like a mirror which reflects the object which is presented in front of it as it is. So the Shastras try to present that Brahma to that buddhi, to the purified buddhi. Therefore, before we can study Vedanta, we have to cultivate the virtues like Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhan. And all these virtues are of the buddhi only. Vedanta doesn't discriminate between man and woman. Vedanta doesn't discriminate between a child and an elderly person. When it comes to study, everyone is entitled to study the scriptures, study Vedanta, if they have the qualities like Vivek, Vairagya, etc., which are the qualities of the buddhi and not of the body. So when the buddhi gains these qualities, and with this, when it listens to the shastras as presented by our teacher from the parampara of that Ishvara, Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. From this parampara, when the teacher teaches us, then the buddhi is listening to this teaching. So in the beginning, the buddhi has got all the thoughts of the world, of the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and everything related to the world. But teacher again and again tells, though the world is connected to Brahma with Karya Karana Sambandha, but what you see as the world is the effect, is the qualities of the effect. So that has to be removed from the buddhi. That one has to shift one's attention from the qualities of the effect. And when all this is removed from the buddhi through the process of negation, neti, that Brahma is not any sound, Brahma is not taste, Brahma is not smell. In Brahma there is no touch or any other qualities which we see in the world. So that is removed from the buddhi. One shifts one's attention. As I said, as I had shown this example, that if we really want to see the color, we have to shift our attention from what is written there. Because if our focus is on what is written, we will not be able to look at the color. Similarly, if our attention is on the world, our focus, we will not be able to appreciate that Brahma. So through negation, not this, we negate all the forms, the outer expression of this world. And when that is negated, the buddhi becomes more and more subtle, more and more pure. Like we have seen in Kathopanishad also, that one has to transcend our attention from the grosser to the subtler. It was said that the Indriyas are very gross. Subtler than the Indriyas are the 5 elements. So Indriyas and subtler than the 5 elements is the mind, subtler than the mind is the buddhi, subtler than the buddhi is the samashti buddhi. Samashti buddhi is the purified buddhi, as it is expressed from Bhagwan's nature. So when our buddhi also becomes extremely pure, it becomes identical with like the samashti buddhi, like the total buddhi. And in that clean and pure buddhi, we come to understand that Brahma. So that conviction happens in the buddhi. Buddhi doesn't get convinced unless it understands. To accept something without understanding is just belief. Belief alone will not help us. What is required is understanding. And that understanding is what is called Shraddha, which is a conviction which we gain after listening to the Shastras, contemplating and completely understanding without any doubt. So once that understanding happens of that Brahma, so I understand Brahma, and I also through my experience know my inner self. And then from the Shastras I also understand or hear this statement that Brahma am I. I am Atma Brahma. This Atma is Brahma. So constantly when I meditate on myself as Brahma, I gain the direct experience of myself as Brahma. That aparoksha anubhuti of myself happens. Direct experience of myself happens. And that is what is called enlightenment or moksha. So that is very beautifully presented here. Now in the following mantras, the teacher is revealing the greatness, mahima of an enlightened person. The enlightened person is his mahima is depicted. Just as in Bhagavad Gita also Bhagavan talks about the glories of that sthita prajna. Similarly here the enlightened person is glorified. So let us chant mantra number 10. Yam yam lokam manasa samvibhati vishuddha sattva kamayate yanscha kaman tam tam lokam jayate tanscha kaman tasmad atmadnyam hyarchayet bhuti kamaha yam yam lokam manasa samvibhati vishuddha sattvas kamayate yanscha kaman tam tam lokam jayate tanscha kaman tasmat atmadnyam hyarchayet bhuti kamaha. He says कि यम यम लोकम मनसा संविभाति विशुद्ध सत्वः कामयते यांश्च कामान. That an enlightened person, whatever loka, there are many lokas, there are many worlds. So whatever worlds the enlightened person thinks about, meditates on any world. So many worlds are there. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, the lower world, and higher world, Bhurva, Swaha, Jana, Maha, Satyam, etc. So whatever world enlightened person thinks about, who Vishuddha Sattvaha, whose Antakarana has become extremely pure and who has gained that self-knowledge, who has gained that enlightenment, such an enlightened person, whatever lokas he thinks about and whatever desires come into his mind, kamayate yanscha kaman, tam tam lokam jayate, he attains those loka and he attains those kamnas also. Tasmad atmadnyam hyarchayet bhuti kamaha. Therefore, those who have desired to fulfill their kamanas and those who have desired to attain the other lokas and all, they can worship this enlightened person. This is the meaning of this mantra. So let us read Shankaracharya's commentary and understand this. So ya evam ukta lakshanam sarvatmanam atmatvena pratipannah tasya sarvatmatvad eva sarva avapti lakshanam phalam aha. So this enlightened person who has gained the direct realization of that Atma, which is Sarvatma. See, when we talk about the inner self, we talk about the self which is experienced in this body. When we talk about Kshetrajna or a Jiva, is the self which is experienced in this body, in one body. But the real nature of that self is that it is present in all the bodies. It is present everywhere. It is Sarvatma. So now we don't have the experience of that Sarvatma. We only have the experience of it as expressed in this body. But an enlightened person comes to realize that Atma which is Sarvatma. So he gains that Sarvatma Bhava. He comes to understand, realize that the self in me is the self in all. Sarvatma Bhav. So such an enlightened person, what is his nature? How does he appear in this world? See, even after gaining enlightenment, the body continues to exist. The world continues to exist. Enlightenment doesn't make the world disappear. Enlightenment doesn't make the body, the mind, the senses disappear. Because all these are expression of that Brahma only. So enlightenment doesn't make Brahma disappear. But one comes to realize that Brahma properly. So here it is said ki yam yam lokam pitradi lakshanam manasa samvibhati sankalpayati. See, this enlightened person himself may not have any desires. But there are others, his disciples and other devotees who may approach an enlightened person and pray to that enlightened person, worship that enlightened person, and pray for some blessings from that person. So their prayer enters the mind of that enlightened person. And whatever enters the mind of that enlightened person gets fulfilled. If somebody wants to attain some other loka, Pitrulok or Swargalok or Brahmalok also, those who want to attain that loka and request the enlightened person, and if that thought comes in the enlightened person's mind, ki may this person gain this loka, then that person will gain that loka. So, or even if that desire come in his own mind for his own, if he desires for himself to attain that loka, that also is possible. Or if he wants to fulfill somebody else's desire, that is also possible. So, Mayyam Anyasmaiva Bhaved iti Vishuddha Sattvaha Kshina Kleshaha. So, this Vishuddha Sattva, the purified Antakarana of that enlightened master, free from all impurities. Atma with Nirmala Antakarana. He is a Atmavit, is knower of his own self, with purified Antakarana. Kamayate yanscha kaman, whatever kamna comes to his mind, whatever desires come to his mind, those desires get fulfilled. Prarthayate bhogans tam lokam jayate prapnoti tanscha kaman sankalpitan bhogan. whatever pleasures come to his mind, or whatever loka come to his mind, that gets fulfilled. Therefore he becomes a satya sankalpa. See, let us try to understand. See, for an ignorant person also, constantly in our mind, in our antakarana, different types of desires, they arise. Our buddhi has got the capacity to know, and also in a buddhi we gain the experience of various pleasures. And this buddhi also has got the ability to activate the body. So we, along with our upadhis of buddhi, mana, indriyas, sharira, we become the doer, knower and enjoyer. We know the world, we have various desires, and we put forth effort to fulfill those desires. So all this happens very, very interestingly through our this body-mind complex. Let us say if you happen to see some objects, you are walking in the market, it is very warm, you are feeling very tired and thirsty, and then you see a place where they are selling some nice cold something to drink. So nice some cold drink is there, some fruit drink. So when you see that, you gain the knowledge. You look at that object through the eyes, and that information reaches the mind, and from that it reaches the intellect. Then intellect refers to the past memory of similar objects, and then it recognizes, and all this happens very fast. So immediately the intellect recognizes, अरे ये तो फर्स्ट क्लास नींबू पानी है, नींबू पानी है, उसमें मसाला भी डाला हुआ है. That knowledge happens in the buddhi. Eyes are looking at that object, and knowledge happens in the buddhi. Then what happens? The buddhi also refers to the past experiences. Buddhi refers to our memory and goes through the memory of having interaction with this nimbupani, and the past experiences are very pleasant, that I was so thirsty and I drank this nimbupani, it was so nice and refreshing, fresh. So all this memory comes in the buddhi. It keeps thinking about that, thinking about the action which were performed in the past, interaction which it had with the nimbupani, and the pleasure which it had gained. So it starts thinking about the pleasure. That's called to do the sankalpa. And once it thinks of the pleasure, it wants to repeat it. It says, now is the opportunity to repeat that pleasure. I can get that pleasure again. I had it in the past, so why not have it again? So let me go and have this nimbupani. So that desire comes in the buddhi. And once the desire comes, buddhi takes the decision, okay, let me have. I have the time, I have the money. That place is also good. So let me have a nimbupani. So then buddhi informs the mind, activate the pranas. prana, pancha prana. And the pancha pranas activate the body. And the body walks towards that stall where they are selling this. On the way also, buddhi, mind keeps helping the pranas and the body and all. A lot of coordination happens. And finally, I reach that place. Then I order that nimbu pani and wait anxiously for that fellow to make it nice. Sugar and little bit of salt and some masala and all, and vigorously shake it and all. Add some eyes also and all. And then I have it. So this happens, knowledge, triggering the memories, thinking about the pleasures, wanting to gain these pleasures, I perform these actions. See, the most fascinating, because we generally don't think about all this, but the more you think, the more you will get fascinated by the mystery of this life. That our buddhi is a very classic and a very interesting instrument, that it can activate the matter also. See, the body, our body is made up of matter. Just as any other matter is there, like this pot is there, made up of matter, our body is also made up of matter. But what activates the body? The pranas actually activate the body, pancha pranas. But what gives direction to these pranas? Our buddhi, our desires, our knowledge, and that kartrutva bhavana which we have gives direction to these actions. In Bhagavad Gita also we had seen Bhagwan in the 18th chapter very beautifully explained the mechanism of action. What did he say? That adhishthanam tatha karta karanam cha pratak vidam vividhascha pratak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. That there are these 5 factors which make all action happen. One is this body, adhishthanam tatha karta. But the next is the kartrutva bhavana, the sense of doership which we have, which also is connected to the sense of knowership and enjoyership. We know, we desire, and that desire and knowledge prompts action. So all this kartrutva bhavana is there. So the karta is there. I, the doer, is very important. In deep sleep, the I, the doer, is not active, so there is no action happens. But when I am awake, the kartrutva bhav is also awake and all actions happen. So, adhishthanam tata karta karanam. So, various my limbs are there, hands, legs, eyes, nose. Karanam cha prathak vidam, vividhascha prathak cheshta, and their different functions are there. And the daivam, and also the devatas which help the action to be possible. Our eyes don't function by ourselves, but the sun, the light of the sun also helps the eyes to function. So the devatas are also there blessing the actions. So when I perform my actions, I have to use my own purushartha, my own willpower and energy and the strength and knowledge, etc. to make the actions possible. But this entire vast universe which is there, which we see in front of us, that is also quite active all the time. The sun, the moon and all, they are busy rotating, revolving. Huge galaxies are active. So who makes all this thing function? That is Vaishvanara. Vaishvanara makes everything work. But within Vaishvanara is that Hiranyagarbha, the mind, the intellect, cosmic mind, intellect, which makes everything function. So the cosmic mind means Hiranyagarbha's mind only has created Vaishvanara and created this whole world. And even now he makes it function. So Hiranyagarbha's mind actually is making everything function. Whatever comes in Hiranyagarbha's mind just manifest it. It comes to manifestation. And our mind, our intellect is part of Hiranyagarbha's mind only. So when we have desire, we can activate our body and fulfill our desires. But when we are in tune with Hiranyagarbha, when our mind becomes one with the total mind, when our buddhi becomes one with the total buddhi, just like an enlightened person understands that this my body is not my body, it is the body of Vaishvanara. My mind is not my mind, it is the mind of Hiranyagarbha. So he has identified directly with Vaishvanara, with Hiranyagarbha, with Ishvara, with that Brahma. So whatever desire comes in the mind of an enlightened person, prompted or stimulated by people around, by the devotees and all, those desires actually come in the total mind. They are connected to the total mind. And whatever desire comes in the total mind gets fulfilled without effort. See, if I want to have something, I have to put forth effort. But when that desire comes in the total mind, it gets fulfilled without my individual effort also. That is the power. See, for this, to give an example of modern times, like suppose you want to gain some knowledge of something. Let us say you want to know what is the distance, exact distance between the earth and the moon. So you want to find out because you don't know. So you want to find out by going online and putting that thing in on the Google search. But suppose you are not connected to the internet. If you are not connected to the internet, then you, however much you try, you will not get the information, or you will have to put forth a lot of effort by yourself to get the information. But if you are connected to the internet, the information just comes up, pops up immediately. Similarly, the ignorant person is not connected to Ishvara, is not connected to Hiranyagarbha, to Vaishvanara, which we have to do through our upasana. But generally we are not connected, but an enlightened person is connected. So whatever desire comes in an enlightened person's mind, it is the desire which has come in the total mind, and it gets fulfilled. Therefore, when we go to a Mahatma, we do namaskar and take his blessing, the Mahatma just says, okay, ho jayega, sab theek ho jayega. Everything will become fine. We pray for our good health, he says, you will be fine. And you become fine. The Mahatma doesn't do anything. He just expresses that desire which you have, but that expression of Mahatma's desire is the desire, it becomes the desire of Hiranyagarbha, becomes desire of Ishvara, and it gets fulfilled. It's the most mysterious. Therefore, here the teacher is telling that tasmad vidushaha satya sankalpa patvat, because this wise person is satya sankalpa, whatever sankalpa comes in his mind, it gets fulfilled. It gets fulfilled. Because Bhagwan makes it possible. Even casually, if the Mahatma utters something, it happens. Even the nature will get tuned to it. Everything, all the devatas will get tuned to it. Whatever, all the entire creation, because everything is controlled by that Ishvara only. If a desire comes in Ishvara's mind, do you think it will not get fulfilled? It will get fulfilled. And we cannot contact Ishvara. It is not possible to contact Ishvara with our ignorance and with our impurity. But we can contact Ishvara through an enlightened person. An enlightened person is direct embodiment of Ishvara only. There is no difference between an enlightened person and Ishvara. Therefore, in our tradition, we have this worship of an enlightened person like anything. Even Kabir Das ji, he says that if your Guru and Ishvara are present in front of you, whom will you do namaskar first? He says you do namaskar to your Guru first, because he is the one who has shown you that Ishvara. Ishvara is present everywhere, but who shows us? Who points out Ishvara to us? Our Guru, the enlightened master. So tasmat vidushaha satya sankalpatvat atmatnyam atmatnyanena vishuddha antakaranam. One whose antakarana has become vishuddha, such an enlightened person, he archayed, one should worship an enlightened master. That is much more powerful than even worshipping some other devatas and some other imaginary gods, etc. And how one should worship? Shankaracharya writes, Ki pujayet. Archayet means pujayet. You can do his puja. Serve that master. Pada prakshalanam. Wash his feet. Shushrusha. Do seva. See, the master is not identified with his limited body also. But the body of the master is connected to the master. Master is not connected to the body, but the body is connected to the master. We can interact with the master through his body, through his equipments. Master is actually that Brahma himself. Brahma is not connected to the world, but the world is connected to Brahma. Gold is not connected to ornaments, but ornaments are connected to gold. In gold there are no ornaments, but in ornaments there are gold. In Brahma there is no world, but in the world there is Brahma. We can interact with Ishvara through an enlightened person. By worshipping, by doing seva, by doing namaskar. So pujayet pada prakshalana, sushrusha, namaskharadi bhihi bhuti kamaha. And who should do it? Those who have desire for prosperity, for pleasure, for gaining anything in this world and other world. Because we are filled with desires, and those desires we can fulfill by our own effort, or we can get direct help from Ishvara, and that can be done through an enlightened person. So whatever desire we may have, it can get fulfilled by the blessings of an enlightened master. So namaskara bhihi bhuti kamaha vibhutim ichchuhu. So those who have desire for bhog, for pleasures, for prosperity, for going to some lokas, they can also worship an enlightened master. Tataha pujarha eva aso. Because the enlightened master is most worshipful. As a corollary, which is not mentioned here, but also, though the worship of an enlightened master is most effective, which can give whatever we desire, but if we harm the master, if we censure or hurt or use bad language, or do anything which is not proper, then those things also will have tremendous negative effect. Much more multiplied. It can, therefore, in Ramayana also Tulsidas ji says, Sadhu avagya turata bhavani kar kalyana akil khaya hani. That if we do the avagya, insult, apaman of a sadhu, a good person, enlightened person, then it will destroy all our punya, karma, instantly. We will become totally devoid of all our punya. And when there are no punya, we will only experience sorrow, pain, and all sorts of suffering. But on the other hand, if we worship an enlightened person, our desires will get fulfilled. Now what about if we want moksha? So the Shastra says, even if you want moksha, you can approach an enlightened person. So we can gain not only bhukti but also mukti. We can gain pleasure and prosperity if we want, or we can also gain moksha by the blessings of an enlightened person. So thus concludes this section. But in the next section, the first mantra talks about how we can gain enlightenment or moksha by the blessings of an enlightened person. So let us begin the second section of this third chapter, the last section, the first mantra. Savedai tat paramam brahma dhama yatra vishvam nihitam bhati shubhram upasate purusham ye hyakamah te shukrame tad ativartanti dhiraha. Savedai tat paramam brahma dhama yatra vishvam nihitam bhati shubhram upasate purusham ye hyakamah te shukrame tad ativartanti dhiraha. So here the teacher says ki sa veda etat paramam brahma. This enlightened person has realized what? Paramam Brahma, the Supreme Brahma. And what is that Supreme Brahma? Dhama, who is the very abode of all the desires and all the pleasures, everything, all the happiness of this world is there in that Brahma only. Brahma is of the nature of happiness itself. And yatra vishvam nihitam bhati shubhram, and in whom is established the entire Vishwa. Brahma is that in which exists this whole Vishwa, universe. See, the universe is extremely vast, large. Though we are living on this earth, and the earth itself is appearing so big, so large, that if we want to even take a round of this earth, it will take many days. If we want to walk, take a round. So vast our earth. But this earth is just like a speck of dust. If we observe this earth from a distance, like there are some these vehicles which they have sent out in space, and they have taken photograph from a distance of this earth, and this earth looks like a tiny little speck. So in this vast cosmos, even our sun, which is so large, it looks like a small little star. And if we just go out of this, our galaxy also will look like a little tiny speck. So the whole universe is extremely vast, but vaster and subtler and more pervasive than the universe is Brahma, in which exists this entire universe. And that Brahma is you. You are that Brahma. So an enlightened person who has realized that Brahma, one to whom it is no longer a theory, it is his direct experience. That Brahma which is Shubhram, which is extremely bright, self-luminous. So such an enlightened person who has gained the direct experience of Brahma, such enlightened person we should worship. So upasate purusham ye akamaha. So those who themselves don't have any other desire, the seekers who don't have any other desire, they don't have desire for pleasures, they don't have desire for prosperity, they don't have desire for going to some other loka, but they have only one desire, to gain moksha. They also want to become like an enlightened person. They don't have any other desire. So akamaha, such people, such seekers also should worship an enlightened person, and by the blessings of an enlightened person, they will be able to transcend all their limitations and gain that moksha. They will not be born again in this world as a limited suffering jiva. So upasate purusham ye hi akamaha te shukram etad ativartanti. They transcend their bodily cause, means that which gives rise to again and again birth, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. That cause itself gets eliminated. So te shukram etad ativartanti dhiraha. So those wise, intelligent seekers who worship an enlightened master, gains the blessings of that master, they also attain that moksha. So therefore, the enlightened master is one who can give bhukti, means bhoga, pleasures, as well as mukti. Bhukti mukti pradata cha. So more about this we will see in our next class. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana. And worshipping an enlightened master we can do even sitting at home and visualizing the master in our mind and offering our gratitude. Just as we pray to Ishvara, we should pray to an enlightened master. Bring that master's image in your mind and offer your services, seva to that master in your mind itself. Do namaskar, do pada puja, do seva, and pray, because whether we are in front of the master's body and praying, or sitting somewhere far away and praying, the master will be able to hear us, because his mind is the total mind, his buddhi is the total buddhi, his body is the total body. He has become Brahma. Brahmavid Brahmaeva Bhavati. Okay? So more about this we will see in our class on Monday. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana, listen to the pravachan again, share this pravachan with your friends, your relatives, and see you on Monday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, 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 Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Boliye Siyavar Ramchandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.